Hi, thank you very much, Bridget, for your presentation. Right, so we've just got just under 10 minutes for questions, so I don't know how many we're going to be able to get through, but we will do our best. So I'll just wait for Maria to bring them up.
So, yes, hold on a minute. So we still got questions for you, Tessa. We have some questions for Manuel. Do you want me to start from the questions to Manuel?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the most efficient thermal insulation coating method for apartment energy saving applications? Panels or insulating paint coating? Manuel?
Yes.
This question is for you.
Yes, I'm afraid I don't understand the question correctly. I mean, what we did
can I step in?
Yes, please.
Sorry, Manuel. It depends on the specific material, but generally, the thicker the material, the more insulating it's going to be. So you can generally assume that a panel will have a greater insulating effect than a thin layer of paint, even though I know there are some clever paints out there on the market.
Okay, so I think we can move to the next question. So very interesting that the success factor shows the trigger point concept of linking EE measures to a necessary maintenance. Would this be an inspiration for new policy approaches?
So this is something we do definitely recommend. It was one of the success factors for the case study building in Vienna, for example, simply because it's possible to be way more cost efficient if you have the scaffolding and you do you have to pay the plastering anyways and just do the additional insulation. So definitely yes.
Okay. So what about the criteria used for selecting the buildings used in the case studies?
So we were looking for multi-occupancy buildings. That's more or less the criteria that we had, and at least we were looking for some owners who are engaged and who wanted to do the lead in the project.
It's Tessa here. I can step in a little bit on that as well because Changeworks led that bit of the project. As Manuel said, it was basically looking for case studies where there were interested owners, but we were very interested to get a wide variety of different types of buildings in terms of different construction types, different ages, different tenure types. So we only wanted mixed occupancy, but we wanted a range of different types of buildings. So hopefully we've managed to achieve that.
Okay, and this is the last question for Manuel. Can you please say something on the technologies used to replace the old boilers?
In the French case study buildings, when you remember, I said that they have 4 flats, and each flat has an individual gas boiler, and 2 owners replaced the old gas boiler just with a new one, but not a condensing boiler. And all in the Vienna case study buildings, where they replaced the central heating system in 2008, they used a condensing gas boiler instead of an oil boiler. Sorry.
Okay, so I think we can move to the questions for Bridget. So I hope you can see my screen again. So the first question is, what is the role of ESCOs? Have they been available as one solution option?
We didn't specifically look at ESCOs in this project, although clearly there is a role in making low-carbon improvements in multi-occupancy buildings. It was quite interesting that we didn't actually do a huge amount on renewables either because of the difficulties with engaging that many people and the funding issues. But certainly ESCOs, especially where there's, with lots of people all using heating and lighting in the same building, there is a role, but I'm sorry, we didn't explore it explicitly.
Okay, we can move on to the next one. Since there are so many differences within European countries, do you think moving forward that energy efficiency is better suited to be tackled on a national-wide basis or Europe-wide as a whole?
That's a good question. Personally, I think you can do a bit of both. So things like the EPBD driving the national policies is really important, but there are also specifically national things that have got to be addressed nationally because they don't appear in every single country. So a mixture, I would say. I don't know if either of the other speakers want to comment on that.
Yes, Tessa, again, I can comment slightly on that. I agree with what Bridget said, and I think for me what's come through with the project is we do need national and local strategies because there are different contexts in every country. But what's been really important from this project is we've learned how other countries do things, what policies they have, and as Bridget outlined in her presentation, there are some best practices that we can learn. And it's quite interesting how we saw policies that were in other countries which we didn't think were possible until we learned how they were done. So I think it does have to be at both the EU and the national level, but there is this opportunity to share this learning that's really important.
Okay, then we have another question. So investment, energy, maintenance and repair equals to life cycle cost management. Would LCC approach help energy and vice versa?
I would say yes, definitely. Presenting the costs and benefits and showing those over the long term will help to get agreement from a lot of people. But not in every case. So we saw in quite a lot of the buildings that the issue was not agreement that this work should happen, but practically being able to afford to do it. And that sometimes there's just unwillingness to proceed with change. So I think definitely that's an important part of the kit for persuading people to go ahead, and we could use it more, but I think it's not the only solution.
Okay, so there are questions arriving all the time. So the next one is, what synergies, confusion may arise yet from the EPBD and EE directive implementation when addressing apartment buildings?
I'm not completely clear about the meaning of that one, whether you mean those two directives conflicting with each other or about just rolling them out specifically with apartment buildings. I think the EPBD and EED directives are quite clear with what they require, but there is some work to be done from some of the partner countries in meeting those directives. And clearly multi-occupancy buildings have their own niche and have different challenges. Hopefully we've responded to some of that in the report where we've specified our recommendations in regards to the European Performance of Buildings Directive.
Okay, and a last one for you, Bridget. What type of support systems are utilized in the upgrades and timescale for these supports?
If this is for the policy recommendation, the supporting policies, sorry, I'm not clear on the meaning of this question.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's Tessa again. I'm afraid I don't quite understand what that question means either. Sorry.
We could move to another question and if
yes, please.
Okay. So how did you determine the energy saving? Did you monitor the consumption before and after, and did you use actual energy consumption or theoretical energy consumption?
So we determined the energy savings by calculations. So these are expected savings. Simply because we just had a 3-year time period, and by deciding, implementing, and having a whole year for measuring, it wouldn't fit to the 3-year project duration, and so these are calculated savings.
Okay, Manuel, and I have another one that is, addressed to you. So, is there any post-occupancy evaluation for these implemented energy improvement measures? Are those owners aware of how to use those technologies set in their properties? Are these energy savings ensured for the future? So, 3 questions in one.
Yes. I would say yes. At least it's up to every partner. But I can say it from our side. We are working with the property management of our case study buildings, and we are going to monitor the impacts, also the measured values, and to make sure that we achieve the savings that we have promised, more or less.
Okay, thank you, Manuel. Tessa, would you like to go back to the rest of the questions addressed to you while you were presenting, and maybe choose some that we can...
I'm just conscious of time at the moment. How many questions have we got left?
So we have another, 6.
Right.
They're the ones in red.
Okay,
but you can make a choice and answer
I'll have
them.
a quick look to see if there's anything that we haven't really touched on. So we've talked about the criteria for the case studies, the communal EPC work in apartment blocks. There's a question about whether that's feasible in a mixed tenure block, and if it's feasible in Scotland. And the question is yes, and the answer is yes, because we're based in Scotland and we've used that. That's really just about the EPC. It's not dependent on tenure or who's living in the property. And there's a question there about finance. So that's something that we haven't had any questions on finance. So that's around how we solve the problem of having different owners with different credit risk profiles and different eagerness to become energy efficient. Well, that was a really major barrier that we did face. Certainly that second bit about the eagerness to become energy efficient, that was a huge barrier in a lot of the properties, that some owners wanted to install measures, were able to pay, and others were not so keen. So the only thing that we can do there is to motivate those owners, provide as much information and support as possible, and that we managed to succeed in some case studies and unfortunately not others. But in terms of different credit risk profiles, in the UK we didn't look at bank loans as finance measures either installed through funding, government funding, or through owners' own finances. I know in other countries they did look at bank loans. I'm afraid I can't remember off the top of my head if any of them did manage to get any bank finance. But I certainly know that this was a problem, because I know in some situations if one of the owners defaults on a loan, the payments will then be required from the other owners in that block, and that situation was not always desirable from the other owners. So that is a major problem and one that we do need to overcome. I'm just conscious of time, that we've gone over to gone over 5 minutes. So I'm afraid I'm going to end the questions there. But I'm very happy to look at those questions. And if anybody would like to get in touch with us on the LEAF website, there is contact details and there's a contact form. So please do feel free to get in touch with us. You can either get in touch with me at Changeworks or any of the other LEAF partners. So I'm sorry we haven't had time to go through all the questions there, but I appreciate all those questions coming through. So finally, I just wanted to thank everybody for signing on today. I really hope that was a useful and interesting webinar for you. The recording of this webinar will be available on the Build Up website, I'm told, from the 20th of March. So please feel free to go and have a listen again, and please do go and have a look at our LEAF website. There'll be more final reports in the next 2 weeks going up onto the LEAF website, but there's lots of things on there at the moment. So thank you again.